Welcome to this week's Your Biggest Vision show. As you can see, I have a co-host today. My fiance, Adam, is going to be here with me today. So let me go ahead and start this. We're very excited to be here with you guys today. And if you're watching live, we'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and type replay below. So welcome back to the Your Biggest Vision show. I'm your host, Leah. This is Adam.
I'm Adam. Hey guys.
We wanted to come together to talk to you guys about something today that we've been doing in our relationship and in our lives that we wanted to share with you. But first, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Of course, yeah. I think I was on an earlier version of this show. It wasn't Your Biggest Vision, but it was something else that Leah was doing. I'm Adam. I'm her fiance, obviously. We're getting married in October, so I'm very excited about that. As for me, I'm a former lawyer, or I guess current lawyer, former practicing lawyer that left my job at a big corporate law firm to become an entrepreneur. And my latest venture is I'm working on an equity research firm where I'm going to be evaluating companies, doing deep dive research, and seeing if they're cheap or overpriced. So I'm very excited for that.
Thanks for sharing that. I'm proud of you. Yeah, so we're both entrepreneurs, as you can tell, since we're able to be here together on Monday. We're very lucky to have that flexibility. It's an adventure having two people in your life. They're both entrepreneurs, but I'm happy that we get to share this journey together.
It is, and in the past, we've heard from some people, oh, why don't you work together? You should collaborate more. And I think we do, but in our own unique way. And I think that really caters to our strengths in our relationship and really what we're looking for in our professional lives. At least that's my perspective.
Yeah, I think we've hit a really good balance, but I think for every couple, you just have to know that it's going to be different for you than it is for other couples, and you have to do it, your way. For me, I'm so grateful that you're also an entrepreneur because I just am happy that I have you to talk to about everything that I do.
Talk about everything. Sometimes you may feel uncomfortable talking about certain issues with other people, and you can rely on your spouse or fiance or boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah,
it is. And
but
just get a different opinion.
We still do our own things, which we think is important because we're both very creative, and so it would be hard to co-create everything together. Anyway, this is neither here nor there. Thanks for being here and introducing yourself. So what we've been doing and that we wanted to share with you is, I'd say about a month ago, we decided to implement a rule and kind of test it out to see how it would go, to only allow each other to complain about one thing per day and only one time per day. So one complaint a day has been our rule. And it's been funny. I don't know. We haven't been that strict on it. I think at first we were a little more into it, but we still wanted to come talk about what it has been like, why we're doing it, and some of the unexpected things that have come along with it. So I don't remember exactly what the day was that we're like, let's start doing this. Do you?
I don't remember. It seems like this was a couple months ago, maybe 1 or 2 months ago. It was her idea, so I give Leah all of the credit because I wasn't thinking about this. But yeah, I think there was some moment we were either in our apartment or we were out or something. And to be totally honest, I think I was the one that was complaining, and we weren't fighting or anything, but we were having a discussion about what we talk about in our day-to-day lives. And I think it's fair to say that Leah is a very optimistic person. That's one of the reasons why I love her so much.
Thank you.
And for me, I'm not necessarily a pessimist, but I do sometimes take a critical look at the world. And I think that provides both advantages and disadvantages. And sometimes the disadvantages, not necessarily affected our relationship in a serious way, but you could see some of those disadvantages. And that's why Leah suggested that maybe we should think about complaining only one time per day. And we kind of took it from there. It's evolved in an interesting way since then. But overall, it's been a very good experiment, and I'd highly recommend people do it.
I think when, we are both so busy, we both work so much. I think that we're definitely busier than when we met, we both were working at 9-to-5 jobs. Like he said, he was a lawyer, I was working at a law firm, and we're much busier now that we work for ourselves. So, you only have so much time in the day together. You only have so many hours in the day to spend together. You don't want to spend that time complaining. You want to talk about exciting things that are going on. And I think that it's only human nature, or I guess I would kind of argue that, but I think a lot of people tend to just vent about things, and that's normal. There's nothing really wrong with that, but we just wanted to be a bit more intentional about what we were talking about when we were together, because we don't get to talk all that much. It's not like, I don't know, we're very busy. So we wanted to make sure that when we were spending time together, it was talking about optimistic things. And I think also for those of you that are entrepreneurs, how important it is to have a really strong mindset and how you cannot entertain your doubt or your, things that are holding you back or things that might go wrong. And so we wanted to get any potential conversations like that out of our conversation and just really stay in a place of supporting each other and staying optimistic and excited about the possibilities of things that could happen. And I think that that's happened. I think we have gotten more like optimistic in doing so. I
do think so. I'm not sure if you want to get into the nitty gritty of what we actually do, but I do like the fact that it's only 1 complaint per day. You know, you could potentially make it, you can increase it, you can make it 5 or 10 complaints a day, and maybe you'd feel a little bit more comfortable with that. Maybe I would as well. But having it just 1 complaint for 24 hours makes you almost a little bit more strategic in the way you have conversations with each other and the one thing that you're going to vent or complain about. So I think that's actually a very valuable part of the exercise. It's not 0 complaints, because I think that's kind of impossible. You can't go throughout your day-to-day life not complaining about everything and being totally positive about life. I think that's kind of impossible. You could do it maybe a couple days in a row, but after a while, you know, life can sometimes be hard, and I don't think you should necessarily hide that. But having 1 complaint, limiting it to 1 thing, I think is pretty cool.
I actually agree, and I think before we did this, I would have pushed back on that and said, let's try no complaints, because I would rather have none. That was kind of my reaction. But one of the things that has come out of this that I didn't really anticipate going in, or I wouldn't have expected, but I think is really a good thing, is we started to see patterns. So we started thinking, okay, what have I complained 3 times about this week, or what has been like my 1 complaint for the past, you know, within 10 days or something several times. Because if things are a pattern, that's a very good sign that you need to stop doing it, or that you need to take a lot of action and get it out of your life, or that you really need to be proactive. Like if your complaint is something kind of offhanded, like maybe you're sore, or, you know, you're in pain, or like you didn't want to go to the gym or whatever, that's fine. But if you start really feeling like you're complaining about the same things over and over again, and that's like worth your 1 complaint, then it might be something that you really can be and should be changing, and you might not have had the drive to do so unless you really started to get the self-awareness to notice that you're constantly complaining about it.
Yeah, it's not only self-awareness too, it's actually both of us calling each other out
keeping accountable.
Yeah, it requires you obviously to listen to what the other person is saying and you know, gathering some insights after a couple of days of doing this. But at least from my end, I know you've helped me recognize certain things that I don't particularly enjoy doing, that I've complained about a couple times in a row, and I've made changes because of that. And so it does require the other person to listen and to have a genuine interest in what you're saying and what you're complaining about. But once you gather those insights and put them into action, it can be very valuable.
Yeah, I think usually, especially when we were starting out, our 1 complaint would go one of 2 ways. Like one or the other would complain about something, and then we'd say, "Oh, is that your complaint?"
Yeah,
and then you're like,
right.
"You just said it." And then you as the complainer either have 1 of 2 reactions. Either you go, "Oh my God, no, I take it back. Like I didn't realize I was complaining." You were just kind of doing it on autopilot. But that's a good lesson to learn, because then you realize like that you might be complaining and not realizing it, and no one wants to do that. Or we kind of sometimes had opposite reactions where we'd be like, you know what? Yep, that is my complaint. Like I don't want to do this, or this sucks, or whatever. And I think when you can start, you know, owning that and realizing that this is worth complaining, that's when it's worth taking a step back and thinking, if it's worth complaining about, and I feel really strongly that I should complain about it, maybe I should get rid of it in my life. Yeah,
and the one thing that I've encountered through doing this, and I don't have
Sorry.
I don't have a clear answer or solution for it yet, but there's almost a fine line between complaints and observations. And I have kind of used that as a loophole sometimes to escape if I've used my 1 complaint already. And so that's just something to think about. You may observe, like if you're standing in line for coffee, I got coffee this morning and it took a long time to get it. And I was observing, this line is really long. There are a lot of people in here. Maybe these people behind the counter could be doing a better job. That's an observation, but I don't know if that's necessarily a complaint. I don't have an answer to any of this, but this is just something that I've encountered through doing it.
Yeah, it's more of that self-awareness that we talked about, because you might not realize that observations that you're saying, like any of us, I'm not talking about you, but like any of us, we might not realize that if we're just observing or kind of talking for small talk or whatever, if you're not careful, they might sound negative. And do you want to be the person that's just like, negative, you know? I certainly don't. And so that's why this is helpful, because I can start to think, are things that I'm just sort of saying off the cuff and not really thinking about, are they actually negative things? And how can I change that?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really important point. It's almost rewiring your brain in that instance. And yeah, it's easy to go through life, just not even sharing your complaints with another person, just thinking in your mind, oh, this sucks. This isn't fun. This isn't what I want to do. And those subtle thoughts are going to influence what you actually say and your behaviors. And so having this one complaint, even just trying to limit yourself to one, even if you don't necessarily abide by it every single day, having that goal is going to put you miles ahead of other people.
Yeah.
I truly believe.
Well, yeah, and if you start getting into a place where you're thinking, well, this isn't really a complaint, I'm sort of just observing it, like, I'm going to use your example, not to target you, but like, you know, the example of standing in line at Starbucks. I'm thinking, it's Monday morning, this is taking a long time, I don't really want to stand in this line, even if you're not really doing it in a complaining way, but if those are the thoughts going through your head, relatively innocent, right? No one wants to stand in line for coffee. How can you switch those thoughts with, it's Monday, it's a new week, I'm so excited for the things in this week. We're in New York City, best city in the world. I'm so lucky to be getting coffee here. You know, those are observations too. So you get to choose what you're choosing to pay attention to in terms of what you observe and what you fill your head with, and then eventually what you speak. And, you know, I really believe, and I think you do too, that what you speak really will attract kind of the people and situations that come into your life, and you don't want to be drawing in all this negativity because you're speaking negatively.
Yeah,
this is a good way to get around that.
So let me ask you a question, Leah.
Okay.
Your biggest vision. This is the show title for
this
guests,
is not scripted.
for viewers or listeners to this, either now or later on. They're thinking this sounds really interesting. They may want to do it. What are some of the traps that you've fallen in while doing this, and how can they avoid those traps? I guess for me, it was just the fine line between observation and complaining, and I don't have a clear answer for that. But in your experience doing this, have you tripped up at any point? And if so, how can people avoid those traps?
In trying to complain less specifically?
Yeah, or trying to follow, either follow what our arrangement is, trying to have one complaint a day, or trying to share our thoughts with each other, or trying to help each other. Just throughout this.
More positive?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, throughout this entire process, what is something that you want to avoid if you could do it over again?
Well, I think one thing I have to look out for, and that I'm still learning kind of in general, but that applies to this is, you know, as we kind of talked about, I'm always wanting to be very positive. But it's important to not repress your feelings, or like the bad things that might be going on, the very normal things. And I think that was a really big lesson for me in this. Like I just told you, if it were up to me, I would say no complaints a day, but then I wouldn't be learning everything that we're learning. Yeah. I wouldn't notice if I am complaining more than once. So I think my advice, if you're doing something like this, something that I want to get better with, and, you know, maybe we can talk about more together as we do this, is just going into it with a really like sort of playful and exploratory and curious mindset. Instead of getting mad at yourself for complaining or feeling like you have to complain less or having any intensity around it or like even judgment around it, I think if you can go into it just trying to see, you know, what am I really thinking? How can I be more self-aware? What is going to help my life? The more fun it's going to be and the better results you're going to get and the more you're going to learn. Is that
yeah, no, that answers my question. I'm just trying to take the perspective of the viewers, just if they want to get started with this. I think another advantage that we have is that we're both really, we've bought into this program, and we have such a strong relationship. And some viewers out there may not have a boyfriend or girlfriend, or they may not be married. They may have a close friend or two that may want to buy into this. And so I think just staying committed can be an issue potentially. And so you're gonna have to figure out a way to make sure your partner or partners, whoever joins you, is really all in for this type of program. And it's also helpful for us too, because we spend a lot of time together and we can call each other out on these sort of things. And if your partner in this program is someone that you don't see every day, or is someone even in a different city, I think it can be easier to complain a little bit more, because they may not necessarily call you out. You could be on the phone with them for say 10 or 15 minutes a day. And I think anyone can avoid complaining if they really want to for 10 or 15 minutes, but it's not necessarily the objective of this program. So that's just something to think about as well.
Yeah, I think accountability is key. That's a good point. We're really lucky that we obviously live together. We're together a lot. We're getting married. So we have each other to talk to about this a lot. And that I think has really helped. But I also think that the reason that works is because we really both want to do this. We have a why. We care about the kind of people we are. We care about how we're acting in front of other people. We don't want to be, gratitude is really important to both of us. We're always talking about and making sure that we are feeling really observant and grateful for the things in our life. And this is sort of a way that you can express that you're a grateful person day to day by just making sure that you're talking in alignment with that belief. So if you do want to do something like this, if you want to start doing more mindfulness about your own positivity, have a really, big reason for why you want to do it. It's not, I don't think it's going to work if you just sort of say that's kind of a cool experiment. Maybe I'll try it or whatever. Like, you have to really care about why you're doing it. And your reason can be different than ours. It's not about having a right reason, but you should have a why behind it. And I think that's the biggest accountability of all, is really having a motivator and a reason you want to do this.
Yeah. And to add on to that, tying it to some goal you have, it may not even necessarily be a career or professional goal. I think for us, the goal was to strengthen our relationship and just to share a more positive mindset. Not saying we didn't have one, but just become even more positive.
Yeah, it's always
in the future.
improving.
So tying it with some goal, I think, can make it easier to follow, because there have been times, at least from my perspective, that I want to complain more than once per day, and sometimes you can slip up. And like I was saying, I think that does happen. But even just committing yourself to following this program, even if you don't necessarily follow it every day, is going to put you in a much better position than if you decided not to do it.
I also think, like, now that I'm thinking about it, I think maybe one of the reasons we started doing this was because we're planning our wedding, and we have this very strong perspective. You know, everyone says planning a wedding is very stressful and there's so much to it and it's so complicated, and it is. There is a lot to it, but we really feel like there is we will not tolerate each other, or I won't tolerate myself really getting stressed out about it. It is a blessing to get married. It is a blessing that we're having a wedding. It's a blessing that we have each other. I am not going to let myself get stressed about something that is such an amazing thing. So that was something I really started to monitor myself with. I mean, you actually feel like, haven't gotten as stressed as I think it's more natural for the bride to get more stressed, but I just really over the past couple weeks and months especially had to say, I'm not indulging in this. I'm not going to get stressed out about it. But that same concept really can apply to almost anything in life. I mean, wedding is pretty obvious. Like, obviously that's a huge blessing, but really your business is a blessing. Getting to run it is a blessing. So if you're, complaining about it, that's not really the way that you want to go about that. Anything in life, getting to exercise, getting to eat healthy, getting to take care of yourself. I understand that we're all human and we all have times when they're frustrating, but if you can just reframe, your way of thinking to think that it is a gift that you get to do this and act in accordance with that, it's just, you're going to be so much more of a powerful person. There's nothing empowering about putting yourself in a situation. Like, if you're an entrepreneur, you chose to be an entrepreneur, and then complaining about a situation you put yourself in. And if you, have big dreams, you have a big vision, that's what my whole show is about, you need to be very empowered. And so these little things day to day might sound like they're just one-off complaints, but if you're, knocking down something you've done for yourself or a position you've put yourself in, slowly, with every little knock, you are disempowering yourself. And so I think that this is a really good way it seems small, but it speaks to a bigger thing.
I agree. I don't know how much more time we have, but let's say if a viewer is watching this and is really buying in, they're really enthusiastic about doing this. They found an accountability partner, so to speak, and they're ready to go. And say like a week or two into it, they face like a really objectively stressful situation, maybe more than one, maybe something really bad happens. And they're struggling to follow this. Like, they really want to, but objectively the circumstances have gotten worse for whatever reason. What advice would you have for those people?
I think, let yourself feel, let yourself be upset. It's okay. It's good to process your emotions. And most importantly, don't throw in the towel if you end up complaining several times in one day. Tomorrow's a new day. You can start again. It's just one day. Don't make it mean more than it does. We all make mistakes. It's like that with everything. It's like that with dieting. If you're trying to lose weight or whatever and you slip up one day, that doesn't mean your diet's over. It just means the next day you kind of need to reset it. And I think one of the things, back to your hypothetical situation, if someone is, going through something and they're really starting to realize the importance of positivity and the importance of the way you speak and all that kind of thing, if you're struggling with the mindset around it and you do come up with an objectively difficult situation or an obstacle, the first thing you want to do, or maybe not the first thing, but the bottom line of the place you want to get to always is that you are responsible for the situation that you're in. And I don't mean that to be insensitive. Sometimes bad things really do happen to good people and things that are out of your control or seemingly out of your control. But the sooner you take more responsibility for the situation, that's where you're going to be able to get out of the situation. You're not really going to be able to change if you don't think you have any power to change. So you can be upset, you can cry, you can vent, you can have a cocktail, whatever. But so long as the conclusion you come to is a place of knowing that you got yourself in that situation and it's okay, because now you can get yourself out.
I think that's a great answer. And I'm targeting on the point you made about dieting and setting a goal. And I've thought about goals and these sort of things, accomplishing my career goals and personal goals. And there's a difference between a goal and a process. And that's what I've discovered since I left my day-to-day law firm job. And the goal, you may trip up on the day-to-day goal, but if you have a good process that you're following and you follow it every single day, then that is going to get you to your ultimate goal. And there are a bunch of books on this. I don't know if you have show notes. I can add them to the show notes, but focus on your process. And you, like Leah was saying, you may trip up on your goal for a day or two or even longer than that. But if you're chipping away, and if you're following your process and chipping away at that goal, it's going to happen. I hope that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But there are a couple books on the difference between goals and processes, and I'd refer your viewers to read them.
I think that's a really good point. And I think something we both kind of come into in our journeys, I think when we started out as entrepreneurs, we have different paths, but like we've gone through a lot together. We both were so goal oriented, especially he, went to law school. You were working at a big law firm. He had accomplished so many checkbox things, like really amazing things. I had recently graduated from school, so we were very into our goals. And I think it's been interesting. I think we both really switched over to falling more in love with the journey and with the process and stop obsessing over getting to the next goal. Because like we did that for a while and it's exhausting. And really when you're an entrepreneur or going through any sort of transformation, that's what, your Big's vision is all about. Any transformation, you have to love the actual process of transforming, because otherwise you're going to get to your goal and sort of feel like, okay, well now what? I don't really, I'm not really fulfilled. Right. And no one wants that.
Yeah.
Do you think we become more process oriented?
I hope to think so. Yeah, because I just think it's a better route to accomplish what you really want to do. And so yeah, you absolutely have. I'm working on it.
I'm working on it too.
Adhering to your process is a process in itself, and so I'm working on it. But,
yeah. No, it's hard.
Never-ending battle.
It is, and it's not the easiest thing, especially when you are maybe more type A and you've like kind of just gone your whole life checking things off like your metaphorical to-do list. But it is a much more joyous way to live if you can sort of fall in love with the process and with the journey and with the way that you're getting there. And you'll discover so much more along the way to your goal. You can make maybe even a bigger goal if you kind of think of it in that way and don't just like have this closed off vision to anything but that milestone. So I guess we kind of got a little bit away from our one complaint thing, but this is kind of our mindset. And we hope that in sharing this, you guys kind of see our why behind this and why this is so important to us. And I think that that's why it's worked, because it does have a lot of meaning to us. It's more than just like only complaining once a day, trying to cut out negativity in our life. It is that. But as you guys can see, this really means a lot to us in terms of the kind of people we want to be and the kind of business owners we want to be, the kind of soon to be husband and wife we want to be. So there's a lot to it for us. And I think that that's why it's worked. And we hope that this has inspired you guys or someone that, you want to do this with to start, if that's what calls you. And there's so many different ways you can do it. This was like, again, he was saying we could do 5 complaints a day. Yeah. You don't have to do complaints. Like something else you could do is just reflect, like what was one tough thing that happened today or something I didn't want to do today. And the rest of the time, try to just focus on, replacing your negative observations with positive ones. Like whatever way makes sense to you and clicks with you, because it's more important that you actually stick with it than do exactly what we did. But this is how it came to be. And maybe we'll keep you guys posted in a couple months, because I'm sure it will evolve and we'll find out more about it. Yeah.
Maybe we'll get to 0 complaints. We'll see what happens. Yeah. At least we're at 1. We're at 1 for now.
Definitely with our wedding, I want to get to 0 complaints, which is only going to get harder as everything ramps up.
True. I do have to say, last night was the Battle of Winterfell Game of Thrones episode. I may have already used up my complaint today.
Is your complaint that no one died?
Not enough people, maybe. So,
we've been really
got to be strategic about your complaints. Don't forget about that.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't have complaints. Yeah. Also, I will say, it's not like we're like, what was your one complaint today? It's not, sometimes we don't complain at all. Yeah. So, yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, it's been good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in, as always. And thanks for being here with us live. And if you listen to this replay, then I hope you subscribe to my podcast. I do these live every Monday at 10 a.m. Usually just me, but maybe you'll have to come on a bit more. It's been great. And I hope you guys we hope you have a great week. Absolutely. And here is to your biggest vision. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye. All right.